We open our second classical concert of the season with a new piece from 2020 by the American composer Nina Shekhar, entitled Lumina. It's a beautifully delicate piece that unfolds slowly, often featuring a single note played by a variety of instruments, so that we can appreciate the sheer beauty of orchestral sound. Shekhar writes in the score, Lumina explores the spectrum of light and dark and the murkiness in between. Using swift contrasts between bright, sharp timbres and cloudy textures and dense harmonies, the piece captures sudden bursts of radiance amongst the eeriness of shadows. Lumina is built on pedal points, that is, notes that are held, often in the bass, just like an organist might stick down a pedal and play over the top. Pedal points build tension by prolonging one note even as the notes played on top of it clash with it. It's a simple and time-honored technique that Shekhar uses to brilliant effect. Shekhar's melodies are often folkloristic, reflecting the intersection of different cultural identities. After two intense arrival points, the music disappears in front of us, like sand running through our fingers, moving back to the simple, eerie quiet that began the music. Lumina begins from nothing. We're not sure where we are or where we're going or what's going on. We're in a kind of no man's land, which is exactly the same atmosphere that begins our next piece, Beethoven's Fourth Symphony. Under a held pedal note in the winds, the strings play a melody in unison that doesn't seem to know where it's going. Beethoven keeps this mood up for so long that many contemporary critics found the tension unbearable and declared him a comedian rather than a composer. But finally, a breakthrough arrives like an explosion, and we hurtle into the main, fast part of the first movement, full of sunshine and irrepressible energy. The second movement is one of Beethoven's greatest orchestral adagios, which simply means slow in Italian, and it's perhaps my favorite movement in all his symphonies. It begins with a simple repeated figure in the second violins, sounding a little bit like an off-kilter clock, over which the first violins play a simple, tender, and beautiful melody. As so often in his slow movements, Beethoven writes a set of variations on this melody, gradually squeezing every drop of musical potential out of it. No one had written slow movements like this before, with such variety and emotional range. The third movement is a fast scherzo, as usual in Beethoven symphonies, him having dispatched with the traditional slower minuet even before completing the first symphony. The finale is a speed record breaker, beginning with a flurry of 16th notes. Later on, the first bassoon has to play these same fast notes in one of the most difficult excerpts for the instrument in the whole orchestral repertoire. So keep an eye on Anthony Anerka, our acting principal bassoon, to see if any steam rises from his instrument at this point. The finale is full of comedy, with several false endings that always bring a smile to the face. Overall, despite the no man's land introduction, the fourth is one of Beethoven's sunniest creations, ending with the fast notes from the very beginning of the finale, plunging down in the lower strings, bringing the symphony to a joyful conclusion. In 1881, Johannes Brahms wrote to a friend, "I don't mind telling you that I've written a tiny, tiny piano concerto with a tiny, tiny wisp of a scherzo." He was teasing her, for he refers to the massive 50-minute-long Second Piano Concerto in 4 movements, with its enormous scherzo being the extra 4th movement on top of the usual 3. Because of the concerto's size relative to Beethoven's Fourth Symphony, we're placing the concerto after intermission in the concert, with Beethoven in the first half. The first movement achieves a coup de théâtre unequaled anywhere else in Brahms's music. The solo first horn plays a simple melody of 4 rising notes, 2 falling, and a rising third, sounding like it comes from the heart of the Black Forest, full of feelings of German Romanticism. This is answered unusually by the piano soloist, who's active from this early moment, not waiting for the orchestra's first tutti before entering. The winds and piano discuss the melody before the pianist embarks on an extended cadenza, again unusual so early in the movement. Only after a terrific build-up of tension, created by thundering pedal notes, remember those, in the pianist's left hand, does the orchestra come blasting in with their first real statement. And we're off. The first movement is massive, containing music of much sophistication and elegance. It contains one phrase that, for me, epitomizes the very essence of Brahms's music. It encapsulates his penchant for tender longing, with a hint of the waltz, even in music that's in 4. And as always, it sounds like Vienna, the city's musical sophistication, its wit, its fading imperial grandeur, the smell of coffee above the chatter and gossip of the coffee houses. The famous D minor scherzo that follows is marked allegro appassionato, literally fast and impassioned, and has an enormous, at times terrifying intensity. Brahms said he needed it to provide contrast with the first movement, which he described with typical irony as harmless. About halfway through the scherzo, the music suddenly changes from minor to major, from intense, even demonic, to optimistic and happy, the music sounding like wedding bells. A painful metaphor, since romantic love was always to elude Brahms, just as it had Beethoven. The third movement is slow and begins with a gorgeous cello solo, which I look forward to hearing our principal cellist, Alexei Romanenko, play in our concerts. Here we hear Brahms using his favorite technique of developing variation, where just like Beethoven in the slow movement of the Fourth Symphony, he gradually alters the melody, developing it and showing it to us in every possible light. The finale takes on a much more carefree attitude, the serious business of the previous movements being over. Perhaps my favorite music critic, the Englishman Donald Francis Tovey, who lived from 1875 to 1940, described the finale metaphorically as follows: "We have done our work, let the children play in the world which our work has made safe and happier for them." Indeed, there is a change of tone as we enter the lighter, happier world of the finale, bringing this titanic concerto to a wonderful close. For these performances, we welcome back the exquisitely musical American pianist Simone Dinnerstein. You may remember Simone played the Mozart A Major Piano Concerto, K488, with us 2 seasons ago, in one of the highlights of the whole year. At dinner after that concert, Simone mentioned to me that she was taking a year off performing in order to learn the Brahms Second Concerto, which she hadn't played before. I was very surprised to hear that she was learning it, since it's very different from her usual repertoire, but was instantly intrigued and invited her to perform the Brahms with us in Jacksonville on the spot. These performances will be among her first of the concerto, so I can't wait to hear what she brings to this magnificent piece.